Fitzpatrick. Best going in on it. Best! Oh, beautifully taken by Best! What a magnificent goal by Best!
Just getting us live on the other channels. Here we go. Where are we? Welcome back to Worldwide Reds, the global Manchester United podcast. Tonight we're asking the big question: what truly makes a Manchester United legend? The words get used so often, but at a club built on resilience, history, and tragedy, it means more than just goals and trophies. From the Busby Babes who lost their lives in Munich air disaster to the icons who rebuilt the club, Greg, Foates, Charlton, Best, and Law, and the modern greats who carried the torch since. What does it really take to be immortalised as a United legend? How are we, fellas? Good evening. How are we all doing? Welcome to Dan making his debut. The man that came up with the title contacted me about a week ago. Apologies for not doing it on Sunday, but we had a few dramas. We had a storm up north, and one of the boys had to go help one of his mates out. So we thought we don't want to just put it on for the sake of putting it on. So tonight's the night. Get in behind us. Get into the controversy. Dan, how you been, mate? Welcome.
I'm very good, Adam. Thank you for having me on. It's a pleasure to be with you guys, and hello, everybody else.
A man full of words. Here we go. How are we, Tom? Hated, adored, never ignored. Welcome back.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me back. Much prefer these chats than sort of looking at the situation around the current happenings at Manchester United and Ruben Amorim in or out. I'd much rather have a bit of a drink and a chat about better times. And it'll be interesting when we get into the discussions around the current group. Is anyone potentially going to be remembered in 20 years' time? I think that's an interesting chat. But yeah, definitely looking forward to remembering my childhood.
Yep, that's for sure. Elliot, the man, you got a nice fresh cup of tea there, mate?
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, it brings back a lot of memories this time of these sorts of chats. So, young kid during the 90s. A lot of fond memories and, looking forward to reminiscing.
Yanni, how we going?
Yeah, I'm good. I just want to address Tom's concern. As far as we know, Amorim for 3 years now. We don't need to worry. We don't need to discuss it anymore. He's in. We're good.
We'll discuss it after Anfield, after 3 a.m. on Monday morning.
That's going to be our 2 in a row. All right.
He said that with the straightest face too.
And young Jordan, how are we, bud?
Always good, mate. Always good. Excited. Happy to be here.
Happy to be here. All right. Look, the first talking point we're going to get into, we have made some categories here. So I sent them to the boys today, and there was controversy straight off the bat. So, and I purposely did it. But we've got a couple of categories where we're going to put immortals, so all-time legends. We've got club icons. What else have we got here? Cult heroes, great servants, loyal Reds, modern hopefuls, future legends, and controversial fallen legends. So we're not probably going to put them in categories, but we're probably going to go, what do you think of this player? Where should he be in this area and stuff like that? Get into the chat, everyone, and throw your comments out, because we want controversy from the people that are watching as well. Dino's already come up with one on Instagram. Woot is a cult hero. So this is the things that we want. We want things like this. But the first one I'm going to touch on, which, look, I think this one was probably a tough one for me to throw in, because I think you've got to be careful about the way you put these players and where they should stand. And I'm talking about like the Munich heroes and things like players like that went through the tragedies and that we remember every year. We're up to, I think we're nearly up to the 67th anniversary I think we're up to now, 68th next year. So I'm going to bring up the boys here. This is their last photo before the tragic accident. We've got Big Duncan Edwards there. We've got Harry Gregg. We've got players there that lived and breathed and passed away for the club. Where do these guys stand? In my views, legends is, have they become iconic, or are they legends? I feel this one's a very controversial one because you've got to be very careful about the way you appoint these players. They definitely play. Comparing these players to modern players, these guys played for the badge. You could never question who they were playing for. They would always, it was their life and blood. The way we breathe for Manchester United, these players breathe for Manchester United. You got Bobby Charlton there, who, in my opinion, is a club legend, immortalised. You name it, Bobby Charlton's it. Where do you boys sit on it? I'm going to start with Dan. He's the one that came up with the subject, so lead the way, Dan.
I think this one's, like you say, Adam, is very, very difficult. I think the team itself, the Busby Babes, they were legendary, and that's hard to kind of argue. I think had they survived the Munich air crash, I think England would have won a World Cup sooner. I think United would have won several European Cups, but unfortunately it's all hypothetical. Like you say, I agree with you that Sir Bobby Charlton is an absolute club legend. And where I kind of sit on this particular topic is that I think the legendary status of any football club, but particularly ours, has to have such a high bar that there are only a select few individuals that can be classed as legends. Now, the whole history of the club is based around the Munich air disaster, the Busby Babes, that team, the way we played football, Sir Matt Busby, and everything that came after that. But I find it quite difficult to say that they are absolute, definite footballing legends for Man United, because I think there are a select few individuals that I would class, like Sir Bobby, like George Best, for example, and other players that came later and more in my kind of lifetime, that I think are closer to that bar. Now, don't get me wrong, Duncan Edwards is apparently the best player that Sir Bobby Charlton's ever seen play football. So it's not doubting or knocking their ability at all. And like I said, I think as a team, they're a legendary team. But whether each individual player was a legend of Manchester United, I find that quite hard to quantify. And I think a lot of it is based everyone here will have a bias on what they've seen growing up as well. I think it's going to be very interesting to get into this topic of conversation and see where everybody holds each era. But I think we can all agree that team, and as a team, it was a legendary team. And I'd struggle to find a more legendary 11 players for Manchester United than the Busby Babes.
It is a tough subject, isn't it? Like, to talk about these players, and every February 6th we're there, we're watching it on TV. I've been lucky enough; I've been over there to the Munich Memorial, and I plan on going to the 70th anniversary as well with a few boys, and it is a very, very emotional day when you've experienced it over at Old Trafford, let alone in Munich. So that's one thing I'm definitely doing in the next few years. Jump on, any of you. Tom, what are your thoughts?
Look, I echo Dan's thoughts there, because I think it's hard. We've got to get into individuals in a little bit. And in my opinion, Dan's saying you've got to really set the bar really high in terms of who is actually eligible for sort of that legend status. And there is only one man in regards to, if you had to pick one person, there is obviously only one man. It's obviously Sir Bobby Charlton involved in that team. But the delicate nature around the discussion around Munich and the Busby Babes, it's without, no one is showing any disrespect, but everyone is sort of touchy around it in regards to, you don't want to potentially somewhat disrespect one of the players. I think just in regards to that group in general, they kind of go into their own category, and the category is not the top category or the bottom category. It's just, it's like I said the other day, in regards to different sports have different types of Hall of Fames. I'd almost put, if it was a Hall of Fame at Manchester United, it would be the Munich wing. It would be its own separate little category and discussion, and it's not above or below anyone. But I just think especially just in regards to a footballing discussion, in regards to a career. I'm sure we'll get into Ryan Giggs' career and the longevity. The career's just not there through no fault of anyone. The careers just aren't there. So it is very hard to quantify. I would just put them in respectfully, which I know everyone sees my view of it, just in one category, just as one team, as one group, as one collection. And I think that's the best way you can do it, because without that first-hand of experience, obviously we've spoken to people who do have the first-hand experience of watching them and getting their insights into it. A lot of us, or all of us here, sort of don't have that experience of sort of watching them live. And so it is hard to, as said, in regards to recency bias, everyone will have a natural bias, of course. I just think the way I look at it in regards to tiering my Manchester United legends, I just put these guys just together. That's probably the best way I could probably put it or view it.
100%, Tom, 100%. Because I've got Dino on the Instagram there. He's talking about Jimmy Murphy, and a man like that in that era that went above and beyond to get players and to keep the club going at the time, in my view, and Jimmy Murphy, like, far out to actually stay probably level-headed after a Munich air crash. You have to put him up there in that legendary status where time moved on. He had to try and stay level-headed, where he got a new team together. He had to go chasing players. Not that he ever forgot about what happened with Munich, because I'm sure that was at the forefront of his thoughts at every single moment he made a decision to go and get a new player into the team. It's a tough subject, I feel. Elliot?
I think you can't just separate these legendary status for players, but you've got to think about the manager during that time as well, Matt Busby, and what he did, during, that, what was it, over a decade there as the manager, and then rebuilding a team after such a disaster like that. That in itself, and just the stories that we've, I guess, heard other players talk about him, and and the smell of his pipe, down the corridors of Old Trafford was still lingering, in the late 80s and 90s and things like that. I think just his aura and his personality, he surely, like, there's surely some sort of category where him and Fergie, would be they're the governors of the club, and I think we can't not talk about, I guess, sort of the Munich disaster without really honing in on just the work that the manager did during that time as well.
Definitely, 100%. Yanni, Jordan?
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously echoing what everyone else said, but it feels like with the Busby Babes and everything, it's more actually what could have been rather than a situation of what they actually ended up doing. Because I think we won 2 leagues in a row. We were doing quite well, obviously, that season, going for a three-peat, and couldn't do it, obviously, due to circumstances. So, yeah, you can't really say, to me anyway, the legends of the club, but I'd probably chuck him as icons of the clubs, because what happened, the situation, how we recovered, everything like that, is iconic for our clubs. It kind of like became the essence of what we were for the next 60 years, 70 years, Yeah,
that's why I agree with Tom a bit when he said, like, they kind of go into their own category as a squad, because obviously that tragic moment has created a lot of history for the club that we've built on for the last, 67 years now. You think of everything that's come from that incident, as tragic as it is, the history that it's left, the way we've rebuilt, the way everything got restructured, the way we've had to go and get new players. It's a horrible, horrible incident, but it's also built the club to where it is today and what it is today. I think longevity is a big thing for me with becoming a legend of the club. So I think some of the players, again, the longevity is not there, but I think they literally died for the club, as bad as that sounds. That's the truth of it. So it's one of those things where it's like, what do you classify as a legend for the club. I think the whole incident itself is in its own wing, as Tom said. I definitely agree with him on that. But yeah, it's just a hard topic to speak on, really, isn't it?
I think in regards to, sorry to interrupt, Adam, but just in regards to that, the visual I have in my mind when I mean a wing, I think kind of United sort of have that as well, just in regards to not positionally, but on the side of Old Trafford in regards to the tunnel, but then in the museum and inside Old Trafford as well, it is set aside as its own thing. And whether it be Duncan Edwards or Tommy Taylor or Eddie Coleman, whoever, or even the players or the people involved in the crash who weren't players, they're all treated the same. They all get the same airtime in regards to the way the club do view it. So, yeah, I think I echo everyone's thoughts there. I think it's just an unfortunate discussion to have in and around what could have been, as they've said. And, I just treat them as one team as they were.
Yeah, so we all agree. We all agree that it's a team thing. You can't individualize players. But then you move on from 58, 50, going into 59, 60, 61, and you got players like Harry Gregg, Bill Folkes, Bobby Charlton, who carried on the legacy. Now, these players played hundreds of games for Manchester United, hundreds of games, which leads me into where do we see players? Where do we see these legends? Do we talk about how many goals they scored? How many appearances they had? Do they become cult heroes by individual moments? There's so many talking points when it comes to legends. And I tell you, Dan, when you brought this up to me to do a pod on this, mate, I had to jump on it. And it's crazy how many areas of Manchester United you could look at it. Connections with fans, leadership and loyalty. There's so much. Where do you guys stand on this? Do you bring longevity and trophies into each other like Ryan Giggs? Or connections with fans like Cristiano Ronaldo in the first stint? Okay, yep. Everyone's starting to get over his second stint now, which always happens. Time cures things. Leadership like Roy Keane. Where does it go? Where do we go?
A big point for me with being a club legend, I think, is, I said it earlier to you boys, is the way you handle yourself on and off the field, the way you represent both yourself and the club, whether that be on the field, at training, in the media, when you're out with your friends and family and things like that, not getting in trouble. I think the way you represent yourself and the club over a long period of time, obviously people have incidents where they regret things, they do things they should have done or say things they shouldn't have said. But I believe the way players handle themselves, especially if they've been at a club for a long time, they're a loyal servant to the club. They're not looking for a move. They're doing their role. They don't complain. They're happy to do it. I think to me, that's a big thing of being a club legend, because you associate yourself with someone that has been around the ground, knows the traditions of the club, knows how the work ethic of the club, knows everything behind the scenes, and they instill that in the next generation coming through. And they just, that's a big point for me.
So for a point for you, okay, and this is where controversy kicks in, right? Go for it. I'm glad you brought in, what you did for the club and what you do outside the club. So back in the 60s, 70s, we had a player named George Best. Is he a club legend? Even though he used to go out, love to party along, and
he has to be a legend, doesn't he?
He 100% would be, and you got to understand also the era that he's living in. It's not like it's in the 2000s, 2010s, 2020s. Where you need to represent yourself as like, I'm a consummate professional and I'd never drink and never do that. Back then, that was okay. Everyone was doing it, so it's not like you can say, oh well, that blocks him from being, a legend. Like, so I would say, obviously, George Best, like, won the Ballon d'Or, won the European Cup, is a pretty much homegrown talent. He's George Best, the number 7.
This is what it's all about. Jump in, Dan.
Sorry, Dan, just quickly on you.
is in the picture.
So sorry, just my quick visual there is George Best. Besides the brilliance of the football, which everyone saw on the pitch, and we've gone back and sort of watched everything, his legendary status is because of the off-field stuff. No, I'm not saying solely, but that's the story. That's why. So that's why we're going to look at trophies. We're going to look at appearances. We're going to look at all these things. It changes for every player. George Best, the story is off the field now. Yes, obviously brilliance and so many sort of big important moments in Manchester United's on-pitch history, but the story about him is off, and that's why we love it. And I think that it's going to be different for someone else. Ryan Giggs is completely on the pitch because his off-field issues are a little bit different. So we're going to shift the goalpost differently for every single player. But I think for George Best, the off-field stuff adds to his legacy in a positive way.
I think Bex is the same, Tom, as well. I think
we had a big
stuff.
discussion about this earlier with Adam because,
Let's try and
in my
we
opinion,
can get to Bex later if you want.
Okay,
Let's stay on
I have
George.
a big thing about Bex.
Let's move through the time frame, and then we'll get. This is the good thing about it. There's so many players that have left a legacy at Manchester United that you could talk for hours about this. So there might even be a part 2.
Yeah. Look,
That's
in
right.
regards to George Best, all you really need to know is Maranda's good, Pele's better, George is best. Done. All right. Like, there you go.
Well, here's a question for you. Based on your criteria for what becomes an icon, what's a legend, what's a cult hero, does the categories change and the questions you ask to get the answer change based on which era we're talking about? So does appearances matter as much in the modern era as it does in the older days, or does goals matter more, things like that, trophies? Does it change depending on what decade you're talking about?
Dan's itching to say something. Get in there, Dan.
Yeah, go on, Dan.
I find myself
Dan's itching.
I contradict myself on that one, particularly Jordan, all the time, because when I first started thinking about this whole category, I'm thinking players that won a European Cup with United have got to be in the discussion. But then I think Eric Cantona, well, he didn't win a European Cup with us. So where do you draw the line? Like, going back to George Best for a minute, I think he's kind of epitomizes everything in the trophies discussion, the appearances, impact on the pitch, the way he played football, the way he's remembered for, to this day. We've got the Trinity statue. He's part of that. We've got one of the best chants about him, ever since, this chant started, really. Like, we've got we're so spoiled as Man United fans that we've got this many legends, whereas you've got clubs like Man City who've got Paul Dickoff, and then the local guys like playing now. Like, we don't really compare to anybody else, right? So I think you're right. Different eras, we ask different questions, because you can't have the whole class of 92 as all of them as legends. That might be controversial. But like I reckon you can only have, and this is a pretty wild statement, you can have a maximum of 10 legends. And I reckon 2 of them are Busby and Ferguson. So that leaves 8. And I think you've got to have a high bar.
I agree with
I
that.
reckon we could do 8, and we
But
would
I
agree.
agree with that.
This is the debate. Right?
Can I say
what are your criteria? How high do you hold a legend? Because I think nowadays everyone goes, "Oh, he's a legend." Like, we'll get onto it later, I'm sure, with some of the modern players. But I don't think anyone's come close in the last 10 years to being classed as a legend, really.
I think the term you use there is right in regards to you contradict yourself, and I'll do it 5 more times during this podcast. I think we will shift the goalposts for every single player to suit our argument. And well, I don't agree, but I could sit here and say, okay, I agree. Okay, let's have 10 Manchester United legends. In 2 minutes, I'll say, no, it should be around 30 or 40 because this and that. And I think we will shift the goalposts because there is no definition and there is no right or wrong answer. I think maybe we'll have a sort of, at the end, in terms of one man sort of answer, and I think everyone if you had to pick one person, Sir Bobby Charlton is at the top of the tree in regards to the story around him. But after that, it is all just opinion. And look, no opinion is wrong here in this, and that's the beauty of it. But I think it's important to remember what Dan said there in regards to accepting that you are going to contradict yourself. Yeah. If you're going to disagree, if Elliot says this guy's a legend and I say no, I'm going to use that exact same logic to defend one of my answers. And I think that's important to remember.
Well, I already moved the goalpost for my first question, and I said, stuff
Well, I
off the
think when it
field, we
comes
talking
to-
George Best.
I think when it comes to legends, and I've got VR.2312 on Instagram, he wrote, legend is someone we admire, whether it is due to their on-field antics or off-field stuff. I admire a player who can rock like the Beatles and play like a football and bed women like Bruce Wayne. Yeah. Oh, look, at the end of the day, this is a fun podcast where we want to try and bring players into the peak, into that legend status. But I think everyone's got their own legends. I know myself, I don't have heroes, okay? I love a couple of players. I love a few players, but I never have heroes in sport. I just don't believe. But that's another podcast. But okay, so yeah, we could go on and on. Let me put. Okay, so I put a list, and I sent a list out to players, out to the boys today. A few of the boys today, and I'll put club icons to you. All right, we won't jump straight into the legends. Club icons, player who might not be an all-time great globally, but are embedded in United's identity and history. Long service, major contributions, symbolic of the club's spirit. So I probably put in there Nemanja Vidic, Rio Ferdinand, Patrice Evra, Gary Neville, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, Michael Carrick, and Peter Schmeichel. And I've got Duncan Edwards at the top of that. Club icons. Thoughts on that?
I want to call you out on this. Two things. Number one,
well, you're not calling me out because I made it controversial.
I'd like to know how. So you chucked Scholesy in the all-time legends, right? And Bex.
But we're concentrating on club icons.
Wait.
Why are you jumping?
Can you pay attention? So my question is, if you chuck those two there, how can Gary Neville not be one of them? So Gary Neville shouldn't be in club icons. He should be in all-time legends, number one, because he was at United.
Around it.
I think actually a lot of it's
but that's in your opinion, not in everyone's opinion.
It's fact. And the other thing is, I reckon, so based on your definitions, right? Players who might not be all-time greats globally, blah, 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 long service. Schmeichel was an all-time great. When he was at United, he was the best keeper in the world. He helped Denmark win their Euros for the first time ever. And he captained us in the final as well, didn't he? Like, that is immortal, all-time legend.
And then he signed for Manchester City.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
Controversial.
Carlos Tevez won everything for United.
But he wasn't as influential and
everyone
as
hates
important.
him.
But he wasn't
That's not
as
as
influential.
important. Mate,
Was Tevez as important as Schmeichel? Was Tevez captaining the team? Was Tevez
in 2008? Yes.
Was Tevez the best in the world in his position?
I think you're both right and you're both wrong.
Tell me, was Tevez the best in his position?
I think you're both right and you're both wrong, because Schmeichel was more influential than Tevez, without question. But I wouldn't put Schmeichel as a legend.
Thank you.
So I think
That's
you're
only
both
because
right.
you hate the fact that he went to Man City.
This week, I'd have the buy high but for legends. You can't be going, oh, he's a legend. He captained the club.
I'm sorry,
And this is
Schmeichel
the
has more of a
point,
shout than Ronaldo does.
And what I say is a little bit. I think a lot of it's actually positionally biased as well, a little bit, because if you like Gary Neville, is a perfect example, right? Gary Neville is probably the best right back I've ever seen play for Man United.
I don't think.
But would I class him as a legend? Longevity, won everything, one club man, wasn't controversial off the pitch, did everything that in my head goes legend, and I go not
but
sure.
Why do you not put him as a legend then? Because to me, he's a legend. He's the appearances.
I feel like he's on the cusp. And
but why is he, with all the
accolades
named, how is he not a legend?
It's position.
Because I think I am positionally biased.
Is it because you don't rate right back?
No. I'm not saying I don't rate a right back. I'm just saying.
Are you saying Trent isn't a legend?
Oh, here we
Mate,
go.
keep fucking
We,
Liverpool out of this.
Here we
All
go.
right? Otherwise, you'll be suspended. Elliot.
we like Gary Neville would probably say that about himself. Like, hasn't he made some sort of similar comments? Like,
Yeah.
no one wants,
Yeah.
no one, no
No
one
one
wants to
go
go out
to
and
be
buy
Gary
it.
Neville.
Yeah, that's right.
He's
And
the
I
most
think
neutral
Gary
pundit
Neville,
ever.
and he's still not in like the Premier League Hall of Fame, is he, Neville? I don't believe he's in there yet.
He's
Neither is
nominated
Giggs.
this year, but he won't be in there because
Giggs isn't in.
Yeah, but again, I think for me, any player who has been a one club player
Yep, for that
should
long.
be discussed. Whether they're in there or not, it warrants a discussion.
Yeah.
It,
Yeah, I agree.
for sure.
I'd like to
Especially
hear
in that
everyone's
90s, 2000s era where we were so successful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think.
So, what would everyone's opinion be on why he shouldn't be a legend? Give one argument on why he isn't a legend, other than he's a right back.
Yeah, I think Dan is he's hit the nail on the head, really. But when you look at his trophies, when you look at how many trophies he's won, is he's captained the side for 3 or 4 seasons. It's
What more do you need?
even if you look at Neville and the reason why the class of '92 was so successful and so together was because of Gary Neville. He kept them together.
Are we speaking Gary? I thought Philip. No,
he kept them together. He was the reason why that group was so tight, because he was just busy boy, looking after them, making sure they were all doing the same thing together. He captained them during when they won the first FA Youth Cup in a very long period of time, and he was playing centre back at that time.
This is all just ticking my box of why he should be a legend. Everything you're listening. I just can't comprehend how someone with that many appearances has been at the club for that long, one-man club, won everything there is at club level to win.
Has come from the youth system.
Come from the youth system, come through the class of 92, and he's still a club icon. But then again, do you put? I don't know.
Dan, you should appreciate him more because he didn't want to speak to Schmeichel in the tunnel that one.
Yeah, and I love that. But I still remember that performance against West
He didn't even want to talk to his brother.
Yeah.
He didn't even want to talk to Phil.
Oh.
Tom, I can see Tom wants to say something here.
No, look, I agree, and it's the hypocritical nature of all of us. So my 2 points, sort of from that, and not to bring it back and not to bring this person into the discussion, but one of the points Yoni made a little bit earlier in regards to sort of putting Peter Schmeichel up there was that he's the best in the world in his position. Look at David De Gea. Now, I hold David De Gea in the highest regard at Manchester United. Would De Gea go into this discussion? Probably not. For a long period at Manchester United, he was the best goalkeeper. I know a lot of people say Manuel Neuer, but he's in and around that discussion. But Adam, you go back to and this is the definition. What's a legend? What's an icon? What's a club hero, cult hero? All these things. You can't define it. But the name, I would hold him above icon. I put this man as a legend, but I think the definition of what you read out is Brian Robson. Now, I hold
I was
Brian
waiting for
Robson as a
someone to
legend.
say it. It's been on the edge of my tongue.
He's a legend for me, but in regards to that definition of an icon compared to Giggs' 13 titles or Sir Bobby Charlton's story and all those things, he might not go into that category. So, yeah, I agree, and enjoyable listening to everyone's thoughts. They're just my two cents that I've picked up throughout.
It's really interesting, actually, Tom, you mentioned Robbo, because for someone that didn't get to watch him play live, I'd still consider him to be on the cusp of legendary status. But do you reckon because we weren't particularly good for a lot of that period of time, do you reckon that favours him and the fact that he stayed loyal to us? And if so, is that the same going to apply to someone like a Bruno?
Yeah, it's influential. The discussion I always have as well is Eric Cantona. We look at Eric Cantona as small sample size, but a lot of the discussion around Cantona is the impact he had on the class of 92 and how they progressed. You look at Brian Robson's time, if we weren't picking up cups here or there and weren't that sort of stayed relevant, would we have been in a position to kick on when the Premier League came around? Maybe not. So I think Brian Robson really did carry Manchester United and kept us in a position so when the turn of the century, or when not the turn of the century, but when the turn of football happened financially, Manchester United were in a position to kick on. And so you look at Brian Robson's time at Manchester United and think, okay, very good, but maybe the influence he had was felt 10, 15 years later.
Can I say what you said there is how I feel actually about, and you mentioned both of them, or De Gea and Bruno, because I actually think the two of them carried us over the last 15 years, like between De Gea being best player, like keeper, whatever, and then Bruno now for the last 5 years. And so I obviously wouldn't put them as legends, but to me they'd be probably both of them, especially De Gea, I'd chuck in club icon. Like,
Do you
It'll
think
be one you want to look back on
look
in
at De
20
Gea as a
years.
club legend though?
I wouldn't look. It depends, because to me, De Gea also didn't win a Champions League, and he only won one Premier League. So one of my criteria would be actually you've been there in a really successful period for the club, and you've been impactful in that success period. And I don't think De Gea, he's obviously been the best in the world in my opinion for like a four-year period, but we still didn't win anything.
Yeah,
and
no, I agree with that.
in the Europa League, he actually cost
The
us.
thing with Robbo, though, he came to United in 1983. In 83, I'm not sure if he actually. I think he came the end of 83. I'm not sure if he played in that Brighton FA Cup replay. I'm not sure. I can't remember whether he did. So, and then we made 85 FA Cup again. Definitely in that. These are FA Cups I can remember. Like, he was a warhorse, man, center of midfield in that icon status where he made games like against Barcelona, against Maradona, and games like that where he just takes hold of the team. He's that Captain Marvel, as he was known as. He was just such a player that had big influences on games. And okay, yep, he stuck up for his player. The Roy Keane probably looked at Brian Robson and he thought he probably had to take that into his game, whereas he had to stick up for his players all the time. If you remember when the Premier League came in 83, Brian Robson was at the end of his 93. Sorry, what did I say?
83.
83. Sorry, 93. Brian Robson was coming to the end of his career. You know, he missed out on an FA Cup. He missed out. Fergie, if you remember, Fergie benched him for that FA Cup. That was his last time. Steve Bruce got up with him. And so that period where Tom was talking through the 80s leading up to our first European Cup win, they're big moments. Robbo takes hold of those games. And it's pretty hard to try and keep him out of that legend status. And if you talk to a lot of players back in that era, like David Beckham, for example, his hero, okay, he's named after Bobby Charlton, but he will talk to you about Brian Robson first. There
is something else I'd say as well, that I think if you're going to say legends also include Matt Busby and Fergie, then the other thing that I think really works well for Robbo is the way he represented United outside of the field once he's retired as well. And to me, that's as important. So
yeah, definitely. Look, and it goes back to like Jimmy Murphy. Let's get back, Jimmy. Just backtrack a little bit. We're talking about Fergie, and we're talking about Busby being club legends. But if it wasn't for Murphy, mate, he has to be up there with him too, just quietly. You know what I mean? So that's taken
he's
3 years.
He's
got a statue at Old Trafford as well. Like, if you look at where he sits and I know it's taken a long time for United to get that statue for him in the back there. And I know this is more about players, but if you're talking about Busby and Fergie, mate, if it wasn't for him, we probably don't have a club after Munich. Seriously. And you can go back further.
I think if we have I think it would be maybe a good way to finish in terms of Mount Rushmore, everyone sort of top four, and I think three of them almost do pick themselves. I think, look, I would agree. Look, in regards for argument's sake, I would throw a player in there. I'll throw my favourite player in there. But if I am doing it honestly in regards to the importance of Manchester United, what Manchester United is, it's not the 90 minutes on a Saturday. We think it is. It's not. Here we are on the other side of the world, 10 o'clock at night, discussing anything about Manchester United. It's far bigger than the 90 minutes on a Saturday. And the importance to Manchester United, he's up there with Sir Alex and Sir Matt Busby, as is Jimmy Murphy. I think, yes, in regards to this debate, we'll throw players into that discussion over him. But in regards to legendary status at the club, he's top tier Jimmy Murphy.
That's actually true because that's a different type of criteria.
Yeah.
Like if you're thinking like legends of the clubs or people who are most important for the club, for example. Like I feel like they're two different things. Yeah.
I hold out Albert the Kitman. He's a legend of the club to me. He's not like, for me. He is like Cather on reception, and I think that's a huge part of it. Of course, so we're going to categorize this to players.
Sir Jim, no.
Yeah.
Mate, we could go back like so far. Like you could go back to 1902 where the club was saved, and we're on the brink of going. You know, we had a local brewery man. You know, beer is a big part of, you know, United's culture back through those days. John Davies, he's the one that saved our club really by money. But, you know, get moving forward. We've got to get through those times and get through to a few players, which Cult Heroes was the first controversial one. Let's move into, you know, great servants, loyal Reds, Weds Brown, Antonio Valencia, Phil Neville, Elliot's favourite player, Mikel Sylvester, Tom Heaton, modern example of club loyalty.
Yeah, must be difficult getting paid well, not playing a game in your retirement tour. Like, come on.
I've got the old run sheet here. I don't know what script I'm reading off, but
no, because he said great servants, and he said cult heroes.
Great servants,
but
loyal Reds.
He said cult heroes. He skipped it and went straight to great servants.
I went straight down the bottom. We're moving into legends. Yeah, you know, great servants. Who are we jumping on there? Great servants for the club.
I think that list is literally. I think everyone can just go around the table and just sort of give just names they want to throw in there. But I honestly think you could have 100 names there. Like, in regards to that one, I think that is one where it would be impossible to narrow down. And I think we're blessed as Manchester United fans to be able to list off 100 players who we can think, they were great for United.
Do you want to hear a controversial one?
Legend. Go on.
All right. Great servant / loyal Red. And I can't believe I'm going to say this. Harry Maguire.
Kick him out.
Mate, I agree with him, mate. Yoni, you know what? I actually agree with you.
For so long.
Yeah. Mate, you look at what he's been through. If
you saw the DMs I've sent the guy.
Oh, my God. Mate, that guy is dead set in the future. Like, Tom and I had a discussion last night. The modern team compared to the 70s team. So through the 70s, we were the same, winning cups, everything like that. These players that we've got now, they've been winning cups over the last, they've won five trophies? Oh. 5 trophies. Don't forget Europa League, everything like that as well, over the past 10 years. If you look at from 70 to 80, they won I think they only won the one FA Cup in that time. But do you regard players in that 70s like Martin Buckham, Lou Macari, you know, players like them, you know, Alex Stepney, I know he came through the 60s. He won a European Cup, but then his longevity into the 70s as well. We got relegated in 74, the year I was born. You know, how do we govern those players in the 70s? And that's even now, those players
that's the beauty of it now in regards to those players who got relegated. George Best was part of that squad that got relegated. Could you imagine our feelings towards this group of players if they got relegated?
Well, he was in and out anyway at the 74.
Of course, but in regards to those names, there's so many players who got relegated who we hold in the highest regard. If this group of players got relegated, would be outside Old Trafford with pitchforks. I think it's interesting. So you look at Harry Maguire there, and I think his ability to, I think when we look back in 20 years' time, and it was a tricky spell for both player and club, but it was a tough spell, but he's picked up 1 or 2 trophies along the way. I think we will look back and the story around Harry Maguire off the pitch, what he's had to deal with, and he will be sort of remembered with a lot of respect from Manchester United fans because it was a touchy subject a couple of years ago.
I wanted to go back for a second. I have a question for Dan. So you know how you don't like Schmeichel because he went to Man City.
It's not solely that reason. I just don't think he's a legend.
My question is, do you consider Dennis Law a legend? He scored against United as well, didn't he? In a season that we didn't do well, and he did that for Man City.
He did, but that gets
but we're already relegated. Before
I think
let's point that out.
A common misconception is that.
No, I said against us when we were not doing. I didn't say he relegated us.
You did. Yeah. Do I hold Dennis Law as a legend? Of
very
the
good
three in the
question,
Trinity, I'd say
Different questions for different eras. Remember, Yanni?
Yeah.
Remember what we said at the start of the pod?
both of those-
Criteria for
Very
different
backfired
eras.
himself
We did
the very
really
first
well.
Inter.
Yeah.
And mind you, Dennis Law never won the European Cup either because he was out.
I'd actually have Nobby Stiles above him personally. World Cup winner with
yep.
England, European Cup winner with United. Tenacious little player.
You can buy really cheap,
very disrespected
signed jerseys. Adam
Say
has
again?
one. Yeah, you can buy
Nobby
really
Stiles,
cheap, nice
absolute
Nobby Stiles
legend.
jerseys. Yeah.
Absolute. I'd throw Nobby Stiles in there hands down.
I can't believe he's not got a statue, if I'm honest, at United.
Yeah. It's Nobby Stiles was one of the greatest, even though I never saw him play, but I watched a lot of United's history. Unbelievable midfielder. He just got through the lines, not so much through the lines, but he was always there with Paddy Crerand there. They were like the hitman of the team. I mean, you just have a look at his mouth and far out. That bloke, we seem to, it's probably another podcast again. What players, absolutely put their body on the line for the club. And he was definitely one of those players, more probably an iconic player.
I think it's actually quite interesting because if you asked people in my particular generation to build their best 11 of United players, I don't think many would have Nobby Stiles in it. Whereas I think
I don't even know who Nobby Stiles is.
Well, precisely. So a lot of it is recency bias, isn't it? Really, like if you've not seen like Robbo, for example, I know guys that I sit with in the Stretford End who are older than I am that regard Robbo as the best midfielder they've ever seen, but that's because that's what they grew up with. Whereas I saw Scholes
both ways though. Like I don't know if I agree with what I'm about to say, but just to throw a spatter in the work, do you think that players, because they've been retired for so long and 20 years ago, they're built up to be better than what they were based on nostalgia?
Oh, Gerrard, Lamps, like those.
Do you think players, like players, even for United, do you guys think maybe you guys hold some players? I'm not saying I agree with this, so just bear that in mind. But do you think you hold players in a higher regard from years and years ago in different eras because it was 20 years ago and you think they might be better than some of the modern day players just based on the nostalgia of them players? Does that make sense?
I think we get more, and I think this is a society thing, we get more angry. And the future generation after us is going to get more angry, and we don't like the future. And I think in 10 years' time, so we see sort of kids running around with whoever on the back of their shirt will say, no, God, Wayne Rooney was better, Robin Van Persie was better, Bruno Fernandes was better. Because that's what the generation before us, that's what they did. And they probably had that done to them, and I think we're going to do that. Again, I think that's just a natural in whatever field.
I agree. It's like a music thing as well. Like, if you grew up in the 70s, you're thinking, 60s. 70s
exactly.
If you grew up in the 90s, you're like, and then the other thing about that as well is, never mind.
It's like what Dan said before, like that recency bias, right? We're all going to have our own recency bias, depending on if we grew up when dinosaurs ran the world like Adam, or if we grew up, in the 90s. I think there was probably a gap in a few years where when I first moved over to Australia, where I probably wasn't following United as much because I just found it too difficult to get packages and stuff like that to watch the games. But, watching the game during the 98 to 99 and onwards and things like that, I certainly have a soft spot for those players.
You have to remember too, like Manchester United's that good at commercialising the club. The players they always put forward are obviously the players they want to push to make not so much immortalized, but cult, probably in that cult hero category. And soon as they play like MUTV, you can go and pick any player you want, like that Patrice Evra or a Gary Pallister or something like that. They'll show highlights, or a Steve Bruce. It's always around those times where they'll show. A lot of people forget how good Steve Bruce was as a captain. It's mental, and I always talk about it where in I think it was 1990, 91, he came out and scored 19 goals for Manchester United in the one season. How many centre halves have scored 19 goals?
That's a mental stat, isn't it, when you think about it?
Isn't it the most goals scored by a
Amazing
defender in a season? Isn't it the most goals scored by a defender in a
And
season
very
ever?
important goals as well. Like, and we didn't win the league that year. It's players like Steve Bruce that get really forgotten about. And even though he went into a managerial role, people have forgotten, and people sort of take that managerial role and overload it onto his football career.
This goes back to my thing about Gary Neville and why I don't think Gary Neville is respected as he is, because of the way he talks about himself in the media, the way he presents himself with Carragher and all that. I think a lot of people don't remember he's the greatest right back to play in the Premier League, Nelly. Well, it's debatable. It's up there. He's in that discussion. He's the greatest right back to ever play in the Premier League. So it goes back to what you're saying with Steve Bruce, with being a manager. They remember him as his manager time. And I think that actually hinders a lot of players' careers as a player, what they do after the sport, which is very unfortunate, I reckon. I reckon a lot of people should just remember what you did on the field, not what you do off the field.
Mark Hughes was quite a similar, like I said, sort of stature or status as Pallister. I think people forgot about sort of his success because of what he did after United and his managerial ups and downs and things like that as well.
I think a big part of that is because they both kind of, retired early mid-90s or whatever, and then became managers. And then the Premier League, like, that's the time where it started getting big. And because it started going big and they were managers at this point, people associate them as managers. They don't even think about them as players. So, so it's kind of like that timing issue, really.
But then that doesn't apply to Rooney.
Tom?
That doesn't apply to Rooney, though. Rooney has had, 2-3 managerial stints? No?
Yeah. But what I'm saying is that happened to them as the Premier League started becoming really big. With Rooney, he's already was a huge name because the Premier League was already such a big thing. He was like an international name for everyone, So for him, it doesn't matter what he's doing after. People will remember him as Wayne Rooney, Premier League player, because the Premier League's already international at this point. Well, in the early, when they were playing in the early 90s, in the 80s, that wasn't the case for them.
Yeah, fair enough.
Like back then, the biggest leagues were the Serie A, the Spanish league, so it was different.
Well, there's a guy that I think gets slept on a lot that played at centre half, and that's Paul McGrath. Like the clips I've seen of him, and I think he was possibly, again, you can argue till the cows come home. I think he was one of United's best centre halves over the last 50, 60 years. Like, I think he was unbelievable from the clips I've seen. And I'm reading his book currently. Like, he seemed like quite a troubled individual. And I think a lot of the stuff now that I see and read and hear from people that are similar age to me is more about that than actually about when he was playing. So it's interesting how it affects different players different ways, right? Like,
some of those names there, though, and you can throw Paul McGrath in there. People before were mentioning Steve Bruce, Gary Pallister, Nobby Stiles, all these great players we think, they're a little bit forgotten about. A huge part of Manchester United and something we love about it. We're all guilty of it. Manchester United, pretty much every team, but especially all the successful teams, have all had star power. So you say Nobby Stiles? No, well, we had George Best getting the light. Yeah. You had Steve Bruce. No, we had Eric Cantona and Ryan Giggs. There's always a part of Manchester United has someone who's going to take sort of the limelight. And there is always going to be greats now in terms of who just get a little bit forgotten about. But that is part of Manchester United. A huge part is we do have that sort of superstar always.
That fits perfectly into what I was just about to say, where if you look at the list that Adam made of the all-time legends, they're all attacking players, and you don't think about any of the different, the players in the back as being all-time legends. Obviously we've discussed that with old mate Gary Neville, and but that's actually fits perfectly with those players as well, and why we don't see them that way.
It's a tough one. Look, the more you try and wrap your head around it, I think the worse it gets.
It's a rabbit hole.
The more
When
I
we
think
think about that, we just gotta agree. Gary Neville is an all-time legend. Like, that's all that really matters.
That's the only thing I'm agreeing with today, guys.
Yeah.
That's all
I'm willing to concede on Schmeichel, even though obviously that's wrong. But I'm willing to concede on that. But Gary Neville
has to be in there. And the more I think about it, the more I'm like questioning my own thoughts on it all. Like, I'm going,
but you look at
this, but then I'm going, so isn't this guy a legend then? And it's just like, I get stuck at a crossroads. And I'm like, as Tom said before, the goalposts are just moving for me, every person.
Well, we're a loyal fan club who I think we are. What players do after us actually really, I think, like tarnishes probably their record with us as well. Like, I think, you use that Schmeichel example, but maybe a better one that I could probably think of could be Paul Ince. Paul Ince was he was a great midfielder during the early seasons of the Premier League, and then in '97 he signed for Liverpool, and we were all fuck him. We don't care what he's done for us now because he's just gone and signed for Liverpool. As fans, we have that bias to people, to players and stuff who stay loyal to the club during that era, or during that sort of 10 to 15 years. And then I think, even you use that Carlos Tevez thing as, I guess a similar example. That front three with Tevez in there was arguably the best in the world at that time. And that United team was arguably the best team in the world at that time. So
there's a very big argument there, because there's one other team that was unfortunately quite good. But
yeah, there was, but there's I guess good and bad to that sort of argument. But then Tevez went and signed for Man City, who with no record that were building a successful club, but just went for money. So we're just like, well, fuck him as well. So I think it's how we rate and status players can also be based on what they do after the club and where they go later on. I think.
I have a question: is Solskjaer a legend or just an icon?
Icon.
He's a legend.
He's a legend. He gave me the best moment I can have in like football history.
I love that. That was a 50-50 split.
That is
he's an icon. I think he's an icon.
I think he's an icon because then how many people are you putting in legend?
Exactly.
I would put him quite high. To be fair. I would take out Ronaldo straight away. I would take out Ronaldo. I don't think he should be.
I don't think anyone has Ronaldo in their legends.
Well, old mate Adam chucked him on the list. Wait. Can I just say
into something here?
You're getting heated up.
Yoni's
that
Yoni's brought up. He's brought up Rooney and he's brought up Ronaldo. Okay, he's brought up two things here. Now, if I can find this clip, it goes for about 48 seconds. So I want you to listen to this clip that I've put together. It's just a voiceover. But I want you to think about, while you're listening to this, who goes into the icon or who is the club legend. All right, here we go.
It is Ronaldo, and it's in! Cristiano Ronaldo, 18 years young, scores his first goal for this famous club. He's wearing Beckham's shirt. It was from Beckham-type range. And if the coaching staff are right, he may well enjoy a Beckham-type future. Options here for Van Nistelrooy. One of them is Wayne Rooney! Giggs. Rooney. He's done it again! It's Rooney. It's inevitable.
So if you don't know, that was the first one for Ronaldo was his first goal for Manchester United against Portsmouth. And the second one was Wayne Rooney's hat-trick on debut against Fenerbahce. So I just get excited listening to those. I must have listened to that about 20 times this afternoon. I got excited about both. You got two players, both. I'm pretty sure Wayne Rooney was 18 when he came to United.
Yep.
And the best part about the Ronaldo part was I love the fact that he said he's wearing the number 7 jersey. Will he have a future like David Beckham? And he's gone above and beyond that, let me tell you, in some ways. In football, yes. In football, maybe not in money-wise or career-wise outside of that. But let's remember, Ronaldo is a billionaire too.
Yeah.
I don't think Bex is quite there yet.
Bex is like probably close, but maybe not.
He'd be close.
But obviously the answer is Rooney out of the two of them. Like Rooney, number 1, highest goal scorer for Man United. Number 2, he's properly bled for the club. Like, do you remember when he had the gash in on the leg and he still played? You know, and the thing is, he's always been respectful of the club afterwards as well. Like, you know, and he sacrificed so much of his game. Like, so we succeed. Like, you know, the whole situation with Van Persie coming in, and he's like, yeah, I'll play behind him. I'll create, you know, all that kind of stuff. So,
especially look, as he always says he's a Scouser, and he's come from imagine the pressure he was under. Imagine the pressure he was under coming from Everton to Manchester United. Like, that's friggin' mental. I mean, Dan, you live over there, or did live over there. You're now living in Melbourne. Talk us through that. Talk us through that to let us understand as much as we understand, but I'm sure there's another way you can explain it to us maybe a little bit better.
I think probably the best way to describe it in a player sense is that look how hated Michael Owen is now in Liverpool. Like, he was a Scouser that came and played for United, and he's hated. I mean, admittedly he played for Liverpool, but crossing from Liverpool or Merseyside into Manchester, you have to have some serious balls to do that and then be incredible for 10 years, which is what Rooney was. Like, he was probably in that team arguably the best player. I know Ronaldo won a Ballon d'Or, but like Yoni said, like, he sacrificed so much of his game to make the team tick. And I think the way I distinguish between Ronaldo and Rooney is that we got Rooney's best years. We didn't get Ronaldo's. Ronaldo's were at Real Madrid. So I think Rooney actually stuck with us. Admittedly, there was the whole palaver with the transfer requests and stuff around the end of the 19th league title, and then when Fergie kind of left. But ultimately, he stayed put. So I think he's one that I struggle with the most in that legendary kind of status, because I know he's top goal scorer, and he's
in legendary status, sure. Has to be.
But I think and I've heard his context since he's finished his career around the stuff that went on.
Yeah.
Around those transfer requests, right? But I remember that as a kid, and remember being in an airport in Birmingham, being absolutely gutted that he'd released a statement that he wanted to leave because he didn't see the club having any ambition. And I just can't shake that. Like, he's given me probably the most like moments as a United fan. Growing up, give me the best moments.
Did he
say again? No, I'm not saying he did leave. And
exactly. So there.
And now you also know that he's right, because the Glazers had no ambition. So
my daughter,
he's not wrong. He's not wrong. But I just don't know if I can put him in, because the more I think about it, the more I go, how many legends have I actually got? Because I can think of 3 now. And I'm like,
well, here's my question for you: is he the best player we've had in the Premier League era? Are you even thinking about it?
That's a hell of a question.
In the Premier League era, I don't know, as a striker or
player,
or just player in general.
He did everything.
But you got to think about Rooney. Rooney's I guess, like his just as a player, not as a striker or a position. Mate, he didn't give a damn about the individual accolades that came with playing football. He was a team player, and all he wanted was the best for the team. You know, he may not have always shown that, and I think certainly in an England shirt, maybe he didn't. But I think, and there's a really good sort of podcast with him and Rio quite recently, actually, that I listened to a couple of weeks ago, and he talks about he just wanted to win football games and he just wanted to win trophies with the team and things like that. He couldn't care about the individual accolades that he got. He just wanted to be successful at the football club, and he still lives and breathes that now, like after retiring. Whereas I think Ronaldo, he wants to be the highest goal scorer of all time, which is why he's still playing at 40 odd. He wanted the Ballon d'Or. He wanted to go and win with Real Madrid and then go and win with Juve. I think Rooney was just such a selfless player and just an all-round team player. And yeah, when you talk,
I have to hold my hands up.
Yeah.
Sorry, just in regards to openly admit both the legends for me. And look, I disagree with Dan in regards I can't narrow it down to 10 legends. I'm going to have a hell of a lot more. My list must be sort of closer to 25 or 30. But and look, I understand the take it away of Ronaldo if someone doesn't want to put him there for certain issues. I see that. But in regards to maybe that selfish nature of Cristiano Ronaldo, where we look at that away from the football pitch, it's what we loved about him on the pitch. It's who he is. We loved it because of who he was. And I think he's almost that unique sort of category. But Dan said there, what almost takes away from the footballing discussion around Cristiano Ronaldo, we never got his best years, where we got Wayne Rooney's best years. What I would counter with that, I'd never seen a season like 07-08. Okay, he might have gone and embedded himself in Real Madrid, but at Old Trafford, 07-08, I have never seen anything like that, what Cristiano Ronaldo did. And for me, I've never seen a footballer at Manchester United do that season. And that shouldn't be specifically enough to solely, okay, you're a legend because of one season. That's obviously up for interpretation and how we view it.
Is that the most goals in a season by a player at United? Did you get like 60 odd?
Ruud van Nistelrooy scored more.
Yeah.
In a
Ruud
season?
van Nistelrooy scored 46 in a season. Ronaldo scored 43.
43.
I think it was 44 and 42.
Ruud
van Nistelrooy
44, 42, something like that.
The thing is, that season, I would say that, Ronaldo.
I'll guarantee it. I'll put $100 on it right now.
Ronaldo obviously did amazing, but for him to be amazing, Rooney also had to play the way.
Of course.
Well, the team's set up for Ronaldo to succeed, but his individual, like, driving himself is what makes him the way he is.
It's probably the best you've seen in the world in football history, like the drive that he has. Like, the way the transfer. This is one thing that I was saying before to you guys about what is a legend and what's an icon. Like, the drive he had, and probably the way Adam had a good point too with it, where he said he came into a great environment with the team, but he still continued that throughout his entire career. He's never ever dropped off.
07-08, we often forget. We always talk about Dan said there his best years at Real Madrid. It's Ballon d'Or. I know Michael Owen got the Ballon d'Or, and Rodri has got the Ballon d'Or in the Premier League. Rodri, okay, I can see. Michael Owen, his Ballon d'Or winning season. I don't remember it football-wise. You go look at the numbers. It's not a Ballon d'Or winning season. What Cristiano Ronaldo did, yes, you look back at the three, Charlton Best Law, who won it in the Premier League era. That's a proper Ballon d'Or winning season at Manchester United, and that takes nothing away from Wayne Rooney. I'm not battling the two. I'm not comparing the two, but I just look at that and what he gave me and what he gave the fan base, but specifically me. Just my memories of watching that season was just I've never seen it ever, and I don't think I will see it again because football has changed dramatically in regards to that individual aspect of the game. And that season, and not just that season, it was that 3-year period, 06, 07. To 09 did sour obviously towards the end of 09, But yeah, for me, and I know it's hard to sort of narrow down to sort of 10 legends, but for me, Rooney and Ronaldo, they're both Man United legends for me. I understand why it sours with Ronaldo for some people. I'm aware of that. But for me, what they did on the pitch, not taken away.
I want to say, Jordan, you know how
Would
you
anyone
talk
have
about
felt? Would anyone would have felt any?
Yeah.
drive?
Elliot.
Yeah, you go first.
Sorry,
Elliot?
would anyone feel any differently? Would anyone feel any differently about Ronaldo if he didn't come back?
Not really. But I'll tell you something now, Elliot. Like with Cristiano Ronaldo, I hated it. I not hated him. I disliked him as a player. I just thought he was very selfish. It just used to drive me crazy. That old school person in me, I enjoyed players working together. I just found a player that was just selfish. He made it about himself all the time. But leading into the last few years, I've been going back watching his highlights and stuff like that. Fuck me, man! What a player! Honest to God, man. And he used to drive me crazy. Honest, Elliot. I used to talk about it all the time, even when on previous pods about me disliking Cristiano Ronaldo. But over the past couple of years, but even when he came back to United, I was still thinking the same thing. But over the past couple of years, I've been looking back at highlights, back at trying to trigger memories about him and stuff like that. The goals that bloke scored, I'm telling you, they were absolutely phenomenal. Yes, his first couple of years. Sorry?
The free kick against Portsmouth. Like that ball moved like you wouldn't believe.
Yeah. It's just, I don't know. For me, it's just an individual feeling. To be a player like that, you have to be selfish. You have to be. It's got to be in you to be selfish. But this is where we talk about Wayne Rooney. Wayne Rooney wasn't selfish. He still got the job done. He still worked for the team. So for me, and it's up to individual preference. I don't have myself Ronaldo as a legend. I do not. But as a player at Manchester United in the like Tom said that year, even the year before 0708, mate, he just came on in leaps and bounds, man. It was mental how these players, not so much Cristiano, but the players that were around him, how they molded him and Fergie molded Cristiano Ronaldo mentally as a player. It's never heard of. It's just out of this world.
You look at Ferguson's ability to do that, and he did that with one or two. He did it with Robin van Persie. He did it with Eric Cantona. Did it with Cristiano Ronaldo in terms of bending to the best player. And you're right in regards to the visual of a selfish nature to Cristiano Ronaldo, like 100%. When the goal goes in, okay, yeah, Ronaldo can add that to his tally. It adds to Man United's tally as well. Yes, there's a selfish element, but the goal goes to Manchester United. So we can sit here. I think if it was a negative time or a bad time, I think we'd all look at Cristiano Ronaldo, and I would probably agree. No, he was 100% selfish. But in a feel-good feeling, a feel-good time for Manchester United, I could take the point of view, well, no, they were Manchester United goals, not Ronaldo goals.
I will say, though, because just in regards to him and his drive that he has, this is actually one of the criteria I have for somebody to be a legend. So it's not the drive for them to succeed; it's the drive for the team to succeed. In my opinion, that kind of like so. One thing I love about Bruno, for example, Bruno wants Man United to do well. For Bruno, it's not about his stats, it's not about his goals, it's about the team doing well. Ronaldo, in my opinion, didn't have that, but Rooney did. And while you'd see examples of when Ronaldo could have scored a goal, misses it or something, somebody else scores the goal, he doesn't celebrate. He's like, there's a goal, that's good, the team will celebrate, but Ronaldo's annoyed at himself for not scoring that goal. So to me, that's the one thing that kind of like gives me the gap between him actually being a legend, because I don't think he wanted United to do well. He wanted to do well, and he loved United because he was there and he learnt a lot, and he loved Ferguson, which was obviously, I think, for him a big thing. But I don't think he had the love for United in the same level.
I do agree with that in a sense. I do think that's like another subject you can talk on, where he becomes a legend of the game, not as much a legend of a club. Does that make sense? I think Real Madrid will always be a legend of their club. He's the greatest ever player, in my opinion. But I also think at United, the more I think about it, the more I think of everything he won at the club, the records he set, the performances. As much as it was selfish, we won everything that season with him. He won everything individually. We won the Champions League. He was top goal scorer in every competition he played in, nearly. Like, as much as he's selfish, the club succeeded because he was so selfish and good.
Here's a question for you. I don't know if someone's got the. Well, no, that's the thing. He did. That's the thing. He did score. My question was: is he the only Manchester United player to score in every major final? He scored in a Champions League final, Chelsea. He scored in an FA Cup final against Millwall. He scored in a League Cup final against Wigan, from memory. I'm pretty sure he scored in that 4-0 victory against Wigan.
Was he in the
first
Europa Cup when we were in it with Ollie, or was he not in that season?
I don't think so. I think he came the season after.
Well, what season was that? Sorry, what game?
The season where we lost to Villarreal. He wasn't in that game, right? He came after.
Oh, sorry, Europa League. No, yeah, he came the year after that. But in terms of those major finals, Champions League final, FA Cup final, League Cup final, in terms of if we're doing a domestic quad, okay, Premier League's a league system. But in regards to those tournaments, Champions League final, FA Cup, League Cup, maybe there is someone. Solskjaer hasn't scored in an FA Cup final. Teddy wouldn't have scored in the League Cup final. And that's not to say, okay, he's a legend because of that. But I think you do look back at his career, and that is something he can look on. Not that he needs any more sort of stats.
He's a big game player, though. If you wanted to put someone here in the final of any tournament, he's the one person you put in your team that isn't going to crack under the pressure, isn't going to fold, he's going to stand up to it and pretty much be the best player on the field because he wants to be the best player on the field more than anything. Anyway, we've been talking about it for a while now.
We can keep talking this, I reckon, for another couple of hours. Just keep plucking players out. I'm going to throw a couple of questions. We haven't even touched on David Beckham. You know what? I want to finish on David Beckham because he's my favourite player with Brian McClare. I want to go around. I want to go around to everyone. I want to know your favourite two players. So mine are Brian McClare and David Beckham. Jordan,
Paul Scholes and David Beckham.
Dan,
I need a minute.
Mine are them two because that's what I grew up watching. That's what I idolized, both of them growing up. I tried to when I played, try to play like them. I used to try and play like Beckham on the wing, realized I cannot cross the ball to save my fucking life. Went into the centre of midfield and I just tried to play like Paul Scholes. And I just adored the way they both played the game. I just love them both. I don't know.
Bex is the same age as me. So all that class of 92 are the same age as me.
You look like him too.
I just remember like those days when those boys were coming through and everything like that. They were living my dream. And you know that I didn't idolize them because they were that my age, but they just became something I had to read in Shoot magazine all the time and see those highlights of those boys. My uncle also started getting me autographs from those boys when they were in Malta and things like that. And Bex was probably one of my first autographs, and same with Brian McClare. So that's how it became for me. Tom?
Easy for me. Roy Keane and Paul Scholes. Roy Keane's my favourite player of all time, and as much as I've said here, Cristiano Ronaldo, in terms of the football he gave me in 07, 08, the way I view football, the best footballer I've seen at Man United is Paul Scholes.
Elliot?
Solskjaer and Bex.
Sure.
And I just tell you one thing around Bex, right? As a person, what a person that guy is. And if you have time, and you can laugh, but I've just finished watching the Victoria Beckham documentary on Netflix.
Yeah, I'm waiting to watch that.
I've got even more respect for Beckham after that. just just fronting his whole wife's passion and hobby and something that she wanted to succeed at, and just funding that. Just such a good person, I think.
Mate, he's my free pass.
And so, Victoria, but you know,
we all know. I just had to throw that in there. Johnny?
I'm gonna.
That's
follow
why I
the
was
crowd
laughing,
here.
Elliot.
I'm gonna
Sorry?
follow the crowd here and say Bex as number one.
Well, you named
And
your son after him.
Yeah. And I'll put a different one out of left field. Honestly, to me, like David De Gea is like really up there, like really, really up there.
Nice, Johnny.
One of mine. Oh, you go.
Not
Dan.
Not Schmeichel.
No,
No, no.
definitely not Michael.
De Gea to me, like I love De Gea. I loved everything, like he saves and like you could save the Titanic and the game against Arsenal. Like holy shit! Like
Remember
Man, that
that
game was unreal. It was unreal. I think I've got to go Scholes 1, and then I'd probably say Rooney, but there's 2 honourable mentions, and I don't know why I got attached to them so much, but they're Park Ji-sung and Ander Herrera.
oh, do you want to hear my? You need to hear this, Dan.
I was waiting
The
for
boys
it.
know what I'm going to talk about here. So about I guess when Herrera used to be part of United, I thought him and I could be best mates. Honestly, I felt like him and I would just like get along, and I had this whole idea of an Instagram that I wanted to do, and it was get like a cutboard cutout of Herrera, life size, and just go and do like normal life things with it, like go to the beach.
This
or,
is
like,
going to
go
get
to
cut. You know
movies.
that.
Yeah, that was my thing because I love Herrera. I think I was so happy he came to us, and I just thought, yeah, he's definitely up there for me as well. But I just thought we could be best mates.
One of my honourable mentions. Well, he'd be number 3 for me, definitely on the list. Is Patrice Evra. I adored him. I love
Because you
everything
love
about
this game.
I just
I've
love
got
his effort on the field, the way he holds himself in high regard, the way I just loved everything about him from the moment he came to United. Even though he was shocking for the first part, he was just I've really liked him, and I liked the way he wasn't good when he first started, and he worked his way into being one of the best left backs in the league at the time, if not the best, other than probably Ashley Cole.
I've got one for Tom here, or from Dino on Instagram. He goes, one matter just fell off his chair. If
I
anyone
think that
knows,
goes in the post-Fergie era. I think Manchester United are split into sort of 2 different lives of mine that I've lived. Post-Fergie has been a very different era. But post-Fergie, if I was to pick, and it started sort of affection for one matter was football in regards to he was my age, and as I was coming through trying to ultimately fail, but trying to forge a professional career, I was looking around sort of players my age in terms of what they were doing. And I remember watching an under-19 Euro tournament, thinking I played one against a handful of these players, and I was watching the Spanish team, and I was thinking, oh geez, if I came up against any of these guys, I'd be in a bit of trouble. And one made him, he was the standout player, so I always kept an eye on him from that. He was playing for Valencia at the time, then obviously got his move to Chelsea. And look, Adam, we've been lucky enough many a time over the years. Obviously, 2019 was the first time we were able to meet him, and in the past year since he's come to Australia, I've been able to a few times as well. And I think it goes to add, which everyone has said in terms of Elliot talking about Beckham sort of off the field. We don't know him, but you almost feel like you do know him a little bit. And someone's off the field nature and the way they do carry themselves completely influences the way we view them as Manchester United legends, icons, whatever you want to say. Yeah. And I think Juan Mata is universally known for off the field and sort of how he carries himself. Adam, you'll be first to admit it's not a myth. Like it's a genuine way. He is not to have like a man crush on someone, but he's just good guy.
He's a very nice guy.
It's phenomenal. It's for a player to remember you by your first name is just ridiculous. Like, and every time you're around him, I don't know about you, Tom, but I couldn't take my eyes off him. Honestly,
I was going to say, look, you've got stars in your eyes, mate. You're a bit starstruck.
Mate, but I tell you, we were so
You're
like Tom and I was so lucky last year that the amount of time we spent with one, and it was just like absolutely ridiculous, and it was
one
never,
time
never,
as well.
never an issue.
And a bit of this pinch myself moment sort of thing. But in regards to, I live not far, like literally 2 minutes from the training ground. And he told us after sort of one of the games we were having a cheese, he said, come down, because I had 2 pins, sort of match day pins I wanted to give him, because he gives us everything. Said, okay, what from Manchester United does he not have? Do I have? I could maybe give to him if the roles reverse. And he said, yeah, come down to training, and he would invite us down there and to watch. And just, it's crazy when you think we are so far away from Manchester United here on the other side of the world. We're so detached, like they're not real life figures. When I was growing up, I almost saw them as like video game characters, like they're not real. And obviously, as you grow older, you realize that's not quite true, and they're just normal people. But even though we sort of accept they're normal people, still in reality, we don't treat them as such. We don't. And the ability to sort of be on that same level is kind of nothing, but it's also very unique. It's weird. Like, it shouldn't be, but we do sort of feel a little bit different. And so footballing wise, One Matter is a great footballer. In terms, that was obviously the first connection. But then when he stepped off that helicopter at Carrington, something clicked, and I had a new love.
When are we getting him, boys? When are we getting him on?
When are we getting one on, mate? Tom's been trying for 2 years to get him on.
I was this close, and he's agent. His club, maybe his new club will be a little bit more lenient, but he's keen. He said many times. He said, "What's the name of it? This and that." And he's keen, but he's got a lot of hurdles.
He's even got an invite to the cave, and he was keen to come to the cave. But there's a lot of things happening around him, and it's a tough one, isn't it, Tom?
Yeah, but look, that's what it is, and I think that's where we're not to get sidetracked as the last bit on it. We're blessed. Like, you don't want to sort of push the boundaries too much. If something's not going to happen, it's not going to happen. Well, we have been extremely blessed.
We've been so lucky.
Yeah. I had a quick little funny story when he played Central Coast Mariners, because I used to come down to Sydney quite a bit from Newcastle and watch him play and see Adam down there and meet him after the games, everything. And then he was playing Mariners, so I went to the game. And after the game, I went over to the fence, started having a chat to him, and he goes to me, "Where's your friend Adam?"
Really?
Yep. Yeah, he was like, "I remember you guys from Sydney. Where's Adam? Where's your friend Adam?" And I was like, Adam must stalk this poor guy.
You know what? Everyone says that, but Tom, really, we're just trying to make him feel loved, basically. Because out at Wanderers, I can tell you now, out at Wanderers, they didn't care. It was Tom and I we'd sit there and go, "This guy's here," and like around the back, you might have a half a dozen people. He would come out and talk.
Once was a weird one where he was the one. Yeah, well, I actually tried to get away once, and he kept the conversation going. I had to get off to get the train, and that's a weird.
I was driving just over 2 hours to come watch him down in Sydney, and I would come down nearly every weekend that they were playing at home, wouldn't I, Adam? We'd come and sit with you guys and wait till he leaves out the back door and go say hello to him, gets another 10 things signed. Chat to him.
Didn't the same thing happen with like Schneiderlin at
Schneiderlin,
Western Sydney as well?
Yeah, exactly the same thing. Yeah. So we caught up with Schneiderlin. He was not as he was good. He was good. We did a trophy presentation. I think Brendan or you did it. Tom,
Brendan.
Yeah, they did a presentation to Schneiderlin there, which was good. Anyway, let's finish up on that. Let's finish off the pod very nicely. Thank you, Dan, for coming on. Thank you. If you've got any other subjects, feel free to come on anytime, mate. Just message us. We're chatting all the time on Instagram. Thank you, Tom, as usual. Hated, adored, never ignored. Go and follow it on Spotify. It's a great pod. Tom's really good speaker. Far out. I wish I could talk like Tom sometimes instead of getting my words muddled up. Thank you, Jordan. Thank you, Elliot. Thank you, Yoni. Remember, like, share, subscribe. We're doing our best here. We love talking United, and it's not necessarily for us to get these subscribers, because we just love talking United. So anyone that's just joined us, make sure you click the like and rewatch it. We'll put some shorts out, and we've got Liverpool coming up on Monday morning. I think it's a 2:30 kickoff. So it's 2:30 a.m. That is. So I'll be up. I'm sure
Yeah,
Tom
I'll
will
be
be
up.
up because we're usually chatting. I think the six of
I'll-
us will be.
I'll be up.
But we'll probably do a preview of the show. I'm sure we will, Elliot. And so thank you, everyone. I don't think we ever came up with any legends, but
Gary
I'm
Neville.
sure in our
Gary Neville.
Yeah,
Gary Neville. He's a short.
I'm
he's in
sure we've
there.
got them all in our own hearts here, who our legends are, and they'll always be controversial, especially when myself and Yoni get together. So thank you, boys. I'll talk to you later. See you later.
There he is.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Goals